Hello and welcome to Making Moves. I'm Natalie Morales and I'm chatting with Stephen Edwards on how companies in the Caribbean can enjoy the benefits of US government contracts. Sounds amazing, right? And Stephen is the creative force behind Stephen Edwards Production. He's a catalyst for change and he has been that way for all his life, where he works with young people, especially in vulnerable communities. Stephen, you are not even at home.
Yes, thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I am not at home at this time.
Mhm.
I've been in the US for quite a while, and it's been quite an experience. I have actually kind of stepped down from functions at Stephen Edwards Productions, and I've just started Stephen Edwards Consultancy,
Uh-huh.
where we help Caribbean companies get US government contracts. And we have made some really, really great alliances with, persons who I would consider to be, the number one guru when it comes to government contracts in the US. And a lot of companies in the Caribbean are not aware that that is even a possibility for them. And so, I thought that to be a very, very interesting opportunity with the economies being the way it is in the Caribbean. I just heard of the budget being passed in Trinidad and Tobago, and a lot of persons still crying, and I think this is a great opportunity for Caribbean businesses to really make that move to expand, in a very, how to say, a process and a procedure that really requires merit as opposed to, well, how things run in Trinidad and Tobago. So.
Yeah. And Stephen, when you started talking about this, I found that it sounded so far-fetched. But really, how can Caribbean companies benefit from US government contracts?
Okay, so that's a really great question. There are
Yeah.
two ways, really, right?
Mhm.
You have to remember the US government, even though it's in the United States, it operates all over the world. So you remember you have embassies all over the Caribbean, you have embassies, all over the world that operate. But where the controlling department stems in the United States of America. So let us say, even though, like a perfect example is that there is the embassy in Trinidad and Tobago that may have a project soon, right, on Maraval Road. That project is not run by the embassy. It's actually run by the Department of State in the United States. You understand? So even as a foreign entity, you can have what is called an engage number to be able to do business with the US government, right? And that will allow you to qualify for different contracts that the US government, has all over the world. But even within the US government, all right, you could stay in Trinidad or stay in the Caribbean and set up a US company and be able to provide goods and services, right, in the US without having a visa and without having to visit the US government, the US at all, right? So you don't have to leave the country. And I'll explain to you how that happens, right? If you set up a US company and you register to be a vendor with the US government, remember, the US government doesn't buy anything directly. So they could simply go, let's say, for instance, the Army wanted iPhones from Apple. They could simply go to Apple and order 1 million iPhones. But the way the economy is set up is that it allows opportunities for small business. So they have these things called set-asides, and it's the small business set-aside. So they wouldn't say, well, okay, we want 1 million iPhones from Apple, right? We want 1,000 iPhones from a small business. Now you have to remember, ultimately, who gets the business? Apple does, because you can't sell an iPhone without going to Apple. But their system is structured in such a way that small businesses are able to benefit from it. And you coming into the market, right? You are able to basically set up what is considered a small business, right? And sell goods to the US government. So what you're going to do is like basically what we call drop shipping.
Yes.
So you would order from your supplier, right? Because most companies right now in the Caribbean order from the United States of America. So let's say, for instance, if you were selling something like printers, right? You can order from your supplier in the US and have them drop ship wherever the item needs to go in the US. And so that way you can sell commodities to the US government without actually having to ever leave the country. So that's
And
one way, yeah.
yeah, because it seems like a lot, but it also seems very, very doable. Stephen, do you know anyone who actually goes through with contract?
Well, we have one of the things that we don't have a lot of Caribbean people because a lot of Caribbean people didn't really know it existed. And I actually stumbled on it by accident because I needed to do some work with the embassy. And because of my past with Steve Meadows Productions being an NGO, right? We had to sign up on the same database, but we had signed up just for grants only. Right. And that is where I came across Kevin Jennings, and he and I spoke, and he was like, well, why didn't you just come in for all goods and services? You can still get grants and you can also provide goods and services. So Kevin was just highlighted in Inc. 500 magazine. He has been doing work for the NFL. He has been doing work for the US government for quite some years now, and he's considered to be America's #1 guru when it comes to government contracting.
Wow.
And so that is the support that we do have. So in terms of not persons from the Caribbean directly, but a lot of small businesses I know have been getting contracts, and we have Kevin's backing. So we have the support of his team, really going to be helping us help our clients to really get government contracts. Because the fact of the matter is like, for instance, because what you would normally pay in the US, let's say, for instance, somebody has the opportunity to travel, right? Because many times we go across to the States and we work for a while. Instead of just working for a while, what we can do is set up a company and bid for a contract, go across there and do the work. Now, when we do bid for a contract, right, what we would normally charge in Trinidad and Tobago is sometimes 3 to 4 times less what US government would normally pay. So understand that there's a huge gap in what we can provide, right, in terms of the cost for them. So it makes us very, very competitive. And really and truly, that is what drives US government contracting, competition.
Yeah. And talking about competition, Stephen, I couldn't help but would wonder, why are you not gatekeeping this? Because it is contracts, and it's one of the disadvantages, I believe, of islands and smaller countries, in that usually we don't want anybody to know. But you are not gatekeeping this at all, because and that's your personality, it's who you are. You believe in that unique blend of theater and technology coming together to really make people develop and raise their living.
And not only that, Natalie, our country can't move forward with just one person. I mean, we've seen it all the time. We have one set of people making all the money, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Our country can't move forward. The Caribbean can't move forward. And then, and for me, it's like, the more money is in the economy, the more opportunities arise.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah, there are more money in the Caribbean, is the more opportunities arise, and we could now give a rise to other types of industries. So, for instance, I am big into film, right? If we have companies now that have the extra money to spend in film, now you could approach them to invest because they're looking for tax shelters. You understand? But by me just doing this and doing contracts on my own, right, it doesn't help our country, it doesn't help our region, and we are just stuck into the same way of doing business. For me to win doesn't mean that you have to lose. we all
Yeah.
win. You know what I mean? It's like a
Yeah.
green environment.
Yeah.
That's really it. It's not a situation where, you know, I have to benefit and you have to lose out.
Yeah. So to that person who is listening and want more information about these kinds of opportunities, where do we go?
Well,
What?
well, couple of things. On Thursday, we're gonna have another live running on Facebook,
Yeah.
where people could ask questions and so
Mhm.
of Kevin himself, right? So Kevin, because
Wow.
I actually bringing Kevin down on October 20th at the Mount Hope Auditorium, right? We have, the cost is just 300 US, right? But it's a great opportunity for companies to come and ask questions and basically set themselves, because you see what happening in the US and why it's not a competition, and the US will welcome this. Small business set-asides are just that.
Yeah.
These are the opportunities that are set aside for small businesses, and they are not being taken advantage of. It's being taken away from Congress, right? So Congress will make the argument that, okay, look, we leave in all this work for small businesses and they are not taking advantage of it. So then let's give the bigger businesses, right?
Yeah.
And so the small business sector in the US will welcome more and more small businesses to participate. The other reason is that if it is, right, we have to have certain services and only one group bid on it, right? The US economy works on competition. So the US government will send out something called a sources sort. And they'll say, well, okay, there are not enough companies that are doing this type of service, right? And therefore, let's not put out this work because we wouldn't be able to get it done, right? So there are not enough companies bidding. So competition is more than welcome in the US. And the third reason is that you have a new generation. In the Caribbean, we still have a lot of traditional businesses. So we have a lot of construction businesses. We have a lot of businesses that do, you know, delivery of goods and services, all those types of, you know, traditional businesses. In the US, there's a huge transition of companies. So let's say, for instance, my father would have had a company. He's now 60 and he's ready to retire.
Yeah.
These new generation of kids in the US, they don't want to do those kind of traditional jobs. So like janitorial jobs, you know, landscaping jobs, those things are big businesses that you can get US contracts for. But the younger generation in the US not picking it up because they want to be YouTubers. And you have to understand that the economy for them, you know, there's so many different ways to make a living in the US that for them, these traditional businesses don't make any sense because they, you know, they're following their dreams and so what is going to happen is that there's going to be more money to spend than there are companies to do the work. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us in the Caribbean now to open US companies and start doing the work. I mean, for plenty of us, we know we will go across the summer and we will do, you know, work across there. We will work somewhere, we will look for a job, you know, to make some US and come back. Instead of doing that, you're doing the same work, but you're getting paid the amount for it. And you just structure it differently. Yeah.
Because sometimes we might go over there and work, do things that we don't usually do even in our own country. So this is so terrific, Stephen. I am sold. I am really, really sold. Now you said the event take place in October, but you did not say a date. Will you release a date later?
No, it's actually October 20th at the Mount Hope. October 20th at the Mount Hope Auditorium. All right. And persons who are interested in purchasing tickets, they can WhatsApp me at 1-868-763-6603. That's 1-868-763-6603. You know, and it's so funny. There are contracts for barbering. There are contracts for some of the things that you wouldn't even think about. when you talk about catering, you can't finish cater for those places, like for Army base. You can't finish cater for that. And so when we started talk about scale and providing services, right? There's one of the beautiful things I love about the system that they have here with US government contracting. All the information is available. So you could see who the vendors were previously. You could see what they charge. You could see what are the projects coming up, right? And all of that is public information. It's not being hidden. It's not that you have to, wonder, yeah. And we've been in the Caribbean. So,
Yes.
you know a contract coming out, you have to know somebody. No, that it doesn't operate like that here. All of
Fair
that
play.
is fair play. So all you have to do is do the research that you're able to now, take advantage of these opportunities. And there's, things like dog breeding. Kennel, some of the weirdest of things, all have government contracts available. One of the big things I've seen is computers for commodities, office equipment, office furniture, audiovisual. You see audiovisual? There's a lot of opportunity in audiovisual. Yeah. So closed circuit security, as I said, janitorial, landscaping, depending on the state, there's a lot of money being spent on it. And persons who, who could cook and so on, catering, it's crazy.
Wow, even that's terrific, because I'm a reading teacher and I am very interested. I really want to sign up, and my next move is to WhatsApp you, so that I will be able to, so that I will be registered for October, for that session on October 20th. And I take it from there.
Yeah, it'll be a whole day. And I just want to say, the nice thing about it is sometimes you have contracts. And I'm talking about sometimes contracts are in the millions of dollars, right?
Yes.
Once you get a contract, there's no unavailability of getting funding, because let's say, for instance, you have a contract to do catering, but you have to have raw materials, you have to have, whatever ingredients or so, because this will run for a year. And let's say that runs for a year, but you now have to provide all these meals. There's institutions there that will finance you until you get your first check. And one of the nice things about doing business with the US government is that once you submit an invoice, you get paid 15 days, right, from that invoice is submitted. It's not like you don't know when you're getting paid.
Yes.
That's by law.
So you have nothing to lose when you really think about it. You have absolutely nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Steven, I wanted to thank you so much for sharing this information, because it can really take the Caribbean, people in the Caribbean who sometimes you just don't know anybody at all, but you bring value and you know your stuff, and it can really make a difference in the lives of everyone right here. So Steven, thanks again. And
so much
this has been Making Moves, which we have been talking about how companies in the Caribbean can really enjoy the benefits of US government contracts. Thanks again, Steven.
Thanks for having me. And you guys stay safe. God bless.
October 20th, right?
Yes, for sure.